Hare Krishna, we'll start the class. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamsha Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So, dear devotees, welcome for the Bhagavad Gita class. Last time we had halted at the 29th shloka of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Today we'll be seeing from the 30th shloka onwards. So I'll be just reading the shlokas. You all can just repeat after me. Yeah. Dehi nityam avadhyo ayam देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुम् अर्हसि. So Krishna says, O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul and describing the immortal soul in various ways. Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary, because Krishna has sufficiently glorified about the characteristics of the soul. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher Bhishma and Drona will die in the battlefield. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body. Not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. So, whimsically, we should not, wage a war or do violence. Srila Prabhupada is saying. So, if you see very interestingly that in this particular 30th shloka, Krishna is now concluding about that section of jnana. So, from the 11th shloka to the 30th shloka, to the 29th shloka, in fact. So he had given full knowledge about the soul. And now he is concluding about that knowledge that factually the soul is indestructible, living entity within this body. And therefore there is no need for you to lament. Because The living soul is, an immutable soul, spirit soul. And because the soul is mortal, the body is temporary. You don't need not need to lament. And violence is just justified when it is sanctioned by the Lord. So, what is Arjuna suggesting? Sorry, what is Krishna suggesting Arjuna? That see, you are a Kshatriya and you should not abandon your prescribed duties out of just fear that your grandfather and teacher will die in the battlefield. So, you should just fight because that is your dharma or that is your duty, that is your prescribed duty. So now if you see in this particular 30th shloka, where Krishna is saying that Dehim Nitya Avadhyo Yam. So Dehi, this person in this body is who he is Nityam. He is eternal, means he is permanent. And that person is what? That person is Avadhyo, which means indestructible. So Ayam is, this Atma, and this Atma is Avadhya. So Vadha is, destruction, that is killing. And Avadhya means that which is indestructible, which is not destructible at all. So then he says, Dehi Sarvasya Bharata. So all these souls are indestructible. It is not that, some special souls are only indestructible. No, nowadays people often turn to the internet to learn something, while anyone can put anything on the internet. So it is important to rely on a reliable source of knowledge. There are so many websites that claim that they will, provide information on determining your next incarnation or your past, and then they give you some instructions. They give you, they give you the instructions to follow. They'll say, okay, buy this special book, purchase this special book for some few dollars or rupees, and you'll know your future. So these claims make it seem like reincarnation is happening only to a selected few who read that particular book and who are applying its teachings, while the others will be just, annihilated. So this is actually a very misguided idea, you can say. So he's saying that Sarvasya Bharata, all souls are indestructible, not only specific souls. So, for example, in some religions where knowledge of the soul is not really clear to them, so what they do, they propose the idea that there are, different kinds of soul, and humans are eternal, while animal, plant, they are not eternal. They justify this consumption of animals. So, but Dehe Sarvasya Bharata, all the souls are what? They are eternal. And then he's saying, Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Na Tvam Sochitum Arhasi. So the whole point is, Arjuna, you do not lament. Do not restrict compassion only to the bodily platform, and do not allow yourself to be deluded at an ignorant level. Na Tvam Sochitum Arhasi. So, Arjuna, it is not worthy for you to lament. Do not lament for anyone, neither for your enemies, neither for those who are on your side also. So, if you see, this is the very first section of the Bhagavad Gita in the terms where Krishna's instructions to Arjuna, and he's describing that no, you should not lament because all these souls are, uh, you know, uh, these souls are indestructible. So you do not need to lament. So you please fight. And after describing this, Krishna takes this discussion to the next level. He takes this discussion to a little higher level. And what is that level? So in this level, Krishna will describe that if, we know that I'm not this body, I'm the soul, okay? I understand, but how do I act in life? Sometimes people say that this material existence is considered to be an illusion. It is temporary. It is just transitory. Or okay, if it is temporary, if it is transitory, then how am I supposed to live then? So how can I come out of this illusion? And is it not that, if I'm hearing today that I am not this body, I am the soul, and tomorrow I stop acting on the bodily platform, I can avoid to act on the bodily platform, but still, I still have to live in this material body as long as I have this body, and only at the end I will become liberated. So, how do I go about, living in this material world? So, for that, one needs to carefully, work systematically. One needs to think about how to rise ourselves from the bodily conception of life. And from the 31st section, Krishna will start describing now the Karma Kanda section. So the first section now he'll start, because that's actually where Krishna starts, instructing Arjuna, that Arjuna, no, you are not indestructible, and then you should fight and you should, attain glory or attain victory. So here, by acting on the Karma Kanda level, Karma Kanda is providing material enjoyment. But it is a dynamic framework also, if you see it, because it is gradually leading somebody to elevation. So now the section from 31st till the 38 is Krishna is answering Arjuna's argument, which was about enjoyment. If you see in the first chapter, the 31st shloka, where he is saying that, see, I don't want to fight because I will not get any enjoyment. Even if I kill, I will not be able to, enjoy this particular, victory. So, because, Arjuna would not be able to enjoy if he fought and killed all his relatives, Krishna says, no, if you do not fight, you will not be able to enjoy. And that is what, Krishna is going to tell us in the 31st to the 38th shloka. And this section, this is the very first section of Bhagavad Gita in terms of now real instructions of Krishna to Arjuna will be actually spoken to him, that why he should fight. So very intelligently, Krishna is taking him from the base level to the highest level. So this particular section, you can say, is like a Karma Kanda section, where Krishna is going to tell him, you fight on the basis of Karma Kanda. Perform your prescribed duties for at least getting material enjoyment. Because material enjoyment will come only from proper execution of your own prescribed duties or your own dharma. And if you neglect your dharma as a Kshatriya, which means you will have a material downfall. So, in the previous section, Krishna used arguments based on, Gyan, from 11th shloka to the 30th shloka. Krishna is giving arguments based on Jnana or intelligence. So now Krishna, or knowledge, sorry. So now Krishna will use, less elevated principles, which will, promise him material rewards also, because his argument was that, there will be loss of enjoyment. I won't be able to enjoy whatever, even if I win this kingdom, even if I reach the heavenly planet, I won't be able to enjoy. So this section of 31st till the 38th shloka, 38 38, this section elaborates more on the text of the second shloka to this chapter, which Krishna says that, if you avoid your duty, it will not lead you to higher planets, but it will lead you to infamy. Because happiness will come only by performing your own prescribed duties. And by performing the prescribed duties, one will gain material enjoyment. So let's see the 31st shloka. You can repeat after me. Swadharmam Swadharmam api chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi dharmyadhi yuddha shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So he says that, Krishna says that, considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on the religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation. So Krishna is telling that you fight. Your duty as a Kshatriya is to fight. Okay, Kshatriyas are not supposed to act like coward and sit in one corner. Right? So out of all the four orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called Kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called Kshatriya. Trayate, to give protection. Kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. A Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system has been followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the orders of sannyas or renunciation. Arjuna wanted to renounce and he just wanted to sit down. So, non-violence in politics may be diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle in the religious law books. It is stated that in the battlefield, a king or a Kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmana also attains the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrifice gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of swadharmas. So this is very important from this point. Actually, Prabhupada is very much specifically saying that two kinds of dharmas, swadharmas, specific duties. So as long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of this particular body in accordance with religious principle in order to achieve liberation. So you can say material duties. When one is liberated, one's swadharma, specific duties, or you can say constitutional duties, become spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmana, Kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord and will be clarified in the fourth chapter. On the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varna Ashram Dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashram Dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. To elevate means to ucha uthana. Okay. So if you see over here, Prabhupada very, very strongly is actually telling that the happiness will come only by, performing your prescribed duty. So that is why Krishna is saying that, see, if you win, you will get an unrivaled kingdom on the earth. But if you lose, still you are not the loser. You will still go to the heavenly planets. So when this Kshatriya is supposed to fight, so the duty of the Kshatriya is to give protection to the citizens, apply some violence for law and order, conquer some inimical kings, rule the world according to the religious principles. So the Kshatriyas were previously trained only in such a way where they will be, fiercely fighting. So when Prabhupada is saying that there are two types of swadharmas, one is specific duties, that is material and spiritual duties. So spiritual duties will be, spiritual duties you can fall after liberation, and material duties are those duties which are performed in accordance with religious principles, according to a particular body that soul has received. And gradually, when he is following the religious principles mentioned in the Shastras, then he will gradually elevate. So, these spiritual duties, you can say, or material duties, are, hand in hand they go when you're following Varna Ashram Dharma. So, human civilization is beginning only at this particular point where he's saying that you perform your duty. Once you perform your duty, then it is gradually you will rise to that particular ladder of attaining liberation, and slowly you will rise to this ladder of what do you say, bhakti yoga. So now in this particular, if you see the 31st, after, Krishna is instructing to Arjuna that, he should not lament because, all souls are, indestructible, and then he has to fight. So after describing this, Krishna takes this discussion to a very nice level where he's saying that there are two types of duties. So when I say that sarva dharmam api chaksheva, means thinking about perceiving. And swadharma api chakshev means if you consider your specific dharma or swadharma, whether you have a kshatriya, brahmana, whatever it is, what will you find? Na vipakam, na vip, sorry, na vikapitum arhasi. So kampa means trembling. So there is no need for you to hesitate, Arjuna. There is no need for you to tremble. It is just, it is not only external trembling, because Arjuna is saying that, see, Krishna, my limbs are, because he put down his Gandiva bow. When he put down his Gandiva bow, he's saying that my limbs are trembling and, my body is trembling and my limbs are quivering. So that external trembling was because of internal weakness that Arjuna had. So Krishna is saying, Arjuna, there is no need for you to tremble like this. There is no reason for your kampan. If you consider your swadharma, why? Because dharmyat hi yuddha shreyo anyat. So from this point of view of dharma yuddha, there is no greater shreya or benefit. So kshatriyasya na vidyate. There is no greater glory for kshatriya than to fight a righteous war. Because in the 7th verse to this chapter, 2nd, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and then he's saying that what is Shreya? What is beneficial for me? What is my long-term goal? Now Krishna will talk about multiple levels of Shreya, but here he is saying that for a Kshatriya, there can be no higher good than than to fight a war which is righteous. Dharma yuddha, you can say. So he's saying that kshatriyasya na vidyate. So even in our current life, we also have two sets of duties. We have swadharma, that is material duties, that is varnashram dharma. And see, currently many duties we have. We are children, we are parents, we are brothers, sisters, in-laws. We are so many, responsibilities. So this is one is like the material duty, you can say, and one is spiritual duties, where, our process of sadhana by which we realize the spiritual culture. We know that what is my original constitutional position, that I'm the soul and I'm supposed to serve the super soul. So by like these both duties have to be performed in very harmony. They both go in hand in hand. So Krishna is telling you to perform swadharma, material duty. Why? Because for a Kshatriya, the swadharma is to fight for a good cause, for dharma. And Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport where he is quoting that for a Kshatriya to die in the battlefield, and for a Brahmana to perform yajna, and for a sannyasi to leave the body at the end of the sannyas, all these are very auspicious. So, of course, Prabhupada quotes two specific things, a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. If a Brahmana does a yajna and there is some fault in it, still the Brahmana will be elevated because the Brahmana is following this path of dharma. So even if a Kshatriya has to kill in the course of, establishing dharma, the Kshatriya will be still elevated to higher heavenly planet. So if you see in the scriptures, there are many references also to animal sacrifice, which Srila Prabhupada is explaining based on, the talk between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chandkazi. So there is a contact, there is a tug of war between this principle of ahimsa, not to kill, and that there is scriptures at the same time who are actually saying that in yajna animal sacrifices can be done. So animals are killed in very various ways. Sometimes by mantra, animals were just killed by chanting some mantra, and this live animals just drop down or they fall down, and sometimes by weapon. But if they are killed in a proper way, then they would be elevated to a higher body because they have died in a righteous, dharmic way. And beyond that, there is an inclination also from this Manu Samhita that to avoid animal sacrifice completely. So Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, when they talk about animal sacrifices, they say that actually these sacrifices are meant only for those who want to eat meat. This was a kind of regulation, and those who do not want sacrifices can use other things. They can use ghee, they can use it. So, for example, instead of animal sacrifice, a replica of an animal can be made of atta or flour or grains and can be cut and offered during the sacrifice. So, Mother Kali, she is a Vaishnavi, and Durga is Vaishnavi, and Srimad Bhagavatam is also saying that Kali is, her roop. Kali is her roop is more ugra form. So she doesn't like blood, but people like flesh and blood to eat. So she accepts that. But those who want to avoid it, then they are told to give something red to her. So it is mentioned that red color flower should be offered to her instead of blood, or red kumkum also can be offered to her. So in general, acharyas do not directly reject certain things if they are given in the Vedas, but what they do is they contextualize them. For example, in the second second chapter only, Krishna is saying that ahead he will say that Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nis Traiguna Bhavarjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna that you go beyond these three modes. And Krishna never rejects Vedas. Even an Acharya, he will never reject Vedas. So they explain how within this context it can be understood. So for people who are attached to meat eating and flesh eating, and they want to elevate their consciousness, then animal sacrifices are recommended. But for those who are at a higher level of consciousness, animal sacrifices are not recommended or required. That is why they are not talked about much. So whoever does the prescribed duty will be elevated to the higher. So if a Kshatriya dies in a righteous war, then they will be elevated. That doesn't mean that this Kshatriya has to, provoke a war to get elevated, but it can come out its own accord. So when the Pandavas, they have tried everything possible ways to avoid that war. But Krishna also went as Shanti Dut, and he's asking only for 5 villages, and then showed the universal form. Even at the end, Bhima was also ready to negotiate for peace. So this sort of glorification of dying in the warfare is not a license for indiscriminate violence. So if we look at the full cultural context, we see that violence is never the first option for resolving difficulties or conflicts. So violence is the very last option. So that is why, if you see, and that is why now in the subsequent shlokas also, Krishna is going to elevate Arjuna more and more towards from karma kand, because this whole section is karma kand, and this whole section of karma kand will speak about that how you can perform your prescribed duties and gain material. I would like to show you all one very nice chant that I have over here. Let me see whether I have it on my desktop or where I. Yeah, this is. So over here, if you see, it's short. Okay. So living entities from an animal life, when they move, then when they get a human form of life, then when they are following karma kanda means what is prescribed in the shastras, what is prescribed in the Vedas. So they are actually, interested in, satisfying their material desires. So they do karma kanda, like, okay, I'll do this yagya, I will get this for my own sense gratification. So it's more of a, like, gratifying your own senses. And then slowly he's rising to this karma kanda, because slowly when he's following this, he's gradually elevating himself by following the shastras, by following the Vedas, and he's accepting a transcendental goal. And he starts knowing, because over here he knows, in this karma yoga stage, that he knows that whatever are my actions, whatever I'm doing, I will have to offer it to the Supreme Lord. So then now he is known as a yoga practitioner. And slowly by gaining knowledge and gaining, because here from animal life, when he's moving to the human life, he's still in mode of ignorance. And from mode of ignorance, he's elevating himself to the mode of passion. And still over here also he's in passion only. It is only at this stage, he tries to go into the mode of goodness and he reaches to this Paramatma level. I'll be explaining more on this, but let me explain this Karma Yoga section, Karma Kanda section and the Karma Yoga section. So there he's accepting more of, in the Karma Kanda section, because in the Karma Kanda section, if you see, there is no spiritual objective. And this is the first step that particular person takes to the elevation from his conditioned soul, from his conditioned level. So the sections of the Vedas, they are encouraging regulated sense gratification. And it brings this animalistic person to the platform of following some religion. So that is why karma kanda, if you see, it is purifying the practitioner in many ways. It makes him practice some rules and regulations, which brings some detachment. And then once you have a little detachment, then it will, foster knowledge. And then it is bringing him to the Vedas, which also, are containing some gyan or knowledge. And some sections give some worshipping also, or upasana also section. So In Karma Kanda section, the third thing they do is like they are practicing yagyas and then they get results. And it gives this practitioner who is doing, yagyas and sacrifices, because that yagya is giving him some result, it gives him some faith in the Shastras also. It gives him some faith in the scriptures also. So it is making him associate with the Brahmanas, those who are engaged in, cultivation of the spiritual knowledge. And these Brahmanas can give that particular person knowledge. So after these Brahmanas have brought him to that particular Vedic path and giving him faith, then naturally he will, go ahead to examine these sections of knowledge and these sections of worship also. Because this sense gratification of karma kanda, it will lead him to frustration. Because he's desiring something, he's doing yajna, he's getting it, he's doing it, he's getting it, he's doing it, he's getting it. But it is ultimately going to give him frustration. So, this practice of karma kanda, when he gets sufficiently frustrated, then the next step is karma yoga. Here, one is who is frustrated with living for sense gratification. He will be advised that you practice spirituality, but he's still attached to completely stopping his work for himself. And one starts karma yoga on the sakama stage. He is practicing karma yoga with some desire. Sakam karma yoga means uh, he has a spiritual objective, but he has material desires also. So one will work in this material world. He will be still attached to some of the fruits for himself. Like a businessman, he'll do some business. He's doing some, work, but he'll be still attached to the profit. If he does not get profit, then he will not work. So, uh, out of desire for some purification, he will give up also some of the fruits of his labor. Like, for example, he might 10% he might give it to the temple as a donation, or a 5% or a 30%. So this practice of sakam karma yoga leads one to the stage where he is completely detached to the fruits of his activities and puts him on a little more higher stage, which is called nishkam karma yoga. So nishkam karma yoga, when one is sufficiently, detached with his fruits, and then he has some fixed transcendental knowledge, then at this stage he's detached from the fruits of his labor, but still he's attached to the work itself. So this businessman, for example, he's saying that, okay, whether I get profit or I do not get profit, I will still do this business. Okay. So even if he is not attached to the fruits, whether he gets profit or does not get profit, but still he's attached to his business. He's attached to his work. And that's where, when he's attached to his work, then again he gets sufficiently, frustrated over there. And then he wants to, achieve a little more higher stage. So it is helping him to achieve from the Nishkam Karma Yoga to, the Ashtanga Yoga. So in Ashtanga Yoga also, there are two stages. Like in the Yoga Rurukshu stage, and then there is the Yoga Rudha stage. So Yoga Rurukshu stage is the beginning stage, and the Yoga Rudha stage is the advanced stage. So, and again, these are also further divided into 8 steps of different limbs that are there. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana. So out of that 8 steps of this Ashtanga Yoga, the first 2 steps are Yam and Niyam. following the prohibitions and the regulations. So after one learns to strictly follow the rules and regulations, he begins to practice some asanas like sitting postures, what people commonly call as this Hatha Yoga. So while these asanas are being mastered, then once he is in that proper position, so for example, he can be sthir or he can be steady in one asana for maybe 1 hour or half an hour or 2 hours also. Those who are practicing yoga, they know that if you are for a few minutes, if you are there in one asana, that asana will give you some benefit. So after he is perfect at that particular asana, then he begins to practice pranayam, breathing exercises. And the breath is intimately connected with the mind. That is why you see, for example, if somebody has some, stress and he does pranayam, immediately the mind will calm down. Immediately he will calm down. So therefore, pranayam is helping one to control the mind. Srila Prabhupada says that pranayam will help to control the mind, but Hare Krishna Mahamantra will help you to purify the mind. And when the mind is controlled, then this yogi will advance to another level of practice that is called pratyahara. Pratyahara means he's withdrawing his senses from their objects. For example, the eyes, they want to see some, Bollywood star or Bollywood lady. So it will, that practice of pratyahara will help him to withdraw his senses from their objects. And then when one very sufficiently is detached, with all these sense objects, then he starts practicing dharana, the dharana and then dhyan. And there are different intensities of meditation also, but such meditation finally will lead you to samadhi. So there are different transcendentalists, they attain different kinds of samadhi. In samadhi, this mind and consciousness, they are fully absorbed on the absolute truth. So the jnani will focus on the Brahman, that is the impersonal aspect of the Supreme or the light of the Supreme. And the Patanjali Yoga or the, you can say the Paramatma meditators that are there, the Paramatma Vadis, they will meditate on the localized aspect of the Supreme Lord, which is the super soul. And one who is a bhakti yogi, he will meditate on Krishna's form with all, the Supreme Lord with all his opulences, and who has a spiritual form, and he has a body which is Sat Chit Anand, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also is explaining that this Yoga Ruruksha is the beginning stage. One works in Nishkam Karma Yoga while simultaneously, he's practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So Nishkam Karma Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, they are going parallelly, and that is purifying his heart. So when this yogi is elevated from this point of Yoga Ruruksha stage to the Yoga Ruda stage, the advanced stage, then what is he doing? He's giving up that Nishkam Karma Yoga also. And then that is Yoga Ruda stage begins at the Dhyana stage, intense meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So this, then he's, because now he's got sufficient knowledge, sufficient, this, that, I want to give up my work, I want to meditate. So then he's a Gyan Yogi. So he can be equated to giving up all the social obligations also he's giving up. And because he wants to advance, so then he's giving up everything. He's becoming completely detached. And this Jnana Yoga is not recommended by Krishna, because for this, one must be very highly qualified to fully give up your work. fully give up, because if the senses keep on troubling, if you, resign, or if you just give up at a very early stage, then you'll be troubled. So then that is why uh, Krishna is explaining that only bhakti yoga is such a stage which will directly take you from the human form of birth, the karma kanda section, directly to the highest stage, that is the bhakti yoga. So uh, bhakti yoga is like a quality that can permeate any of these stages to involve the spiritual objective. But generally, it is only, fully entered into after this Gyan stage. So Krishna explains this graduation of advancement according to the spiritual level of the practitioner. And he says that, no, you just fix your mind upon me. In the 12th chapter, he says that you fix your mind upon me and you engage all your intelligence in me. And thus you will live in me always without a doubt. But uh, this particular verse, he says that this process of pure bhakti, where you have a very strong connection with Krishna based on pure love. And on this level, one can spontaneously get attracted to Krishna and with his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so. So on this level, one is always meditating on Krishna, thinking about pleasing Krishna. So one in this level is already liberated, even if he's living in this material world. So devotees like, Uddhava, Arjuna, they are on this level. And if you see Arjuna is also on this level that all the time he is, he's fixed up his mind upon Krishna. We know this particular story also, that once, Krishna was hearing his name in the war. Krishna heard his name, Krishna, 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 and he's actually looking around that who is, calling on my name. He's looking at in the tent of Yudhishthir, Bhima, and others also. Then he comes to the tent of Arjuna. He's saying, no, I think this voice is coming from here. So he goes over there. And then he's saying that Arjuna is sleeping. Then from where can I hear this noise? Where can I hear my own name from? Then he goes a little more closer to Arjuna, more closer, and then Krishna puts his ear on Arjuna's back. And when Krishna puts his ears on Arjuna's back, he can hear his own name, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And that is why I'm saying that Arjuna has reached to this stage of fixing the mind upon Krishna and engaging his. But in this context, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, that was Krishna's plan, that he bewildered Arjuna and then he wanted to speak the Bhagavad Gita and re-establish, and that's why Arjuna got bewildered. So, this path is described very much in great detail in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And also, of course, we'll see in the chapters 7 and 12 also of the Bhagavad Gita. So, what if, like, somebody might ask, that what if, I'm not able to follow this most elevated path? Then, Krishna is giving the answer, because in the 12th chapter, 8th sloka, Krishna is saying, fix your mind upon me. And, you will attain me. And you will always live without me. But for example, somebody is not, able to follow this elevated path. Then Krishna, in the next verse, is giving a solution that, okay, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. So in this way, at least you'll develop a desire to attain me. So then this verse, describes the process of sadhana bhakti, where, practitioner is not completely pure, but because he's practicing, and he eventually becomes very pure. And then somebody, because if you see that where this practitioner is not completely pure yet, but he's sufficiently detached to practice sadhana and do some service without any desires for material gain. So on this level, devotee not be very pure, or where he's not completely fixed his mind in Krishna, but at least at least he's advanced and he's renounced enough to dedicate all his external activities to Krishna, like living in the temple, living in a sacred place, rising early, chanting on the beads, doing some services that are, pleasing to Krishna. So this particular stage is equaling to that stage of jnana yoga, where at least, or at least this nishkam karma yoga, where he's not really very attached, he's completely detached. So one who is not yet advanced will not be able to, maintain this level, since his material desires will keep on pulling him back to the material sphere. So then Krishna again, is giving the third path. Okay, if you cannot practice rules and regulations of bhakti, then you try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to some perfect stage. So then again, Krishna is giving karma yoga. See, initially Krishna in the 8th shloka of the 12th chapter, he gives bhakti yoga. If not bhakti yoga, then at least, you all do, Gyan yoga. Sorry. You at least do, what do you say? You do Nishkam Karma Yoga. If you cannot do that, at least you do Karma Yoga. Give all these activities to me. So that is why this final path of one who is still on the lower yoga ladder is going to be, is that okay, if one cannot directly work for Krishna because of some attachment to the fruits, or of his work and some social pressure from the family or something, then use that money in the cause of, uh, some good cause, and then you can cultivate renunciation, at least internally. So one becomes very much purified by these activities, and eventually he may become a devotee of Krishna and start the path of karma yoga. So if you cannot take to this process, then again, he's saying that engage yourself in cultivating knowledge. Better than knowledge is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. So by such renunciation, then one can get a lot of peace. So, if you see Krishna, he is keeping on giving, one who is not able to do anything practical may start by cultivating some spiritual knowledge. Because this spiritual knowledge is the path of self-realization, where one applies this knowledge in his life, he's collecting some realizations, he'll be able to gradually ascend on this yoga ladder into the more advanced stages, like from karma kanda to karma yoga to gyan yoga to ashtang yoga. And from ashtang yoga, if you see very interestingly, I'll just show you the chart. See, I'll just zoom this, okay, so that it's more clearer. If you see, when this Gyan Yogi, okay, because Gyan Yogi, when he's taking Gyan, he's moving from passion to ignorance, okay. Give me just 1 minute, okay. Yeah. He's moving from passion to ignorance over here in this stage. And then when he's moving from passion to ignorance, because see, he's got knowledge, and with that knowledge comes detachment. Okay. If you have knowledge, then there will be some detachment. If you do not have knowledge, then you will not be sufficiently detached. So now if this Gyan Yogi, when he further advances, he gets knowledge, then these Gyanis, they actually looking for Brahman realization over here. Okay. And these Gyanis which are there, who want, Brahman realization, so they are called the Brahmavadis. Okay. But when a Jnani reaches to this Brahmavadi stage, what happens is that he cannot, he has no scope from Brahman realization to reach to, Bhagwan realization. He gets stuck up actually. And he gets stuck up for millions and millions and millions of births. There is no hope for this Brahman realization to go to Bhagwan realization until and unless a pure devotee like Narad or Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruv Maharaj will come and give him some association, then he can be elevated. But very rare chances are there. But when this Jnani uplifts himself to the Ashtanga Yogi section, slowly he will say, no, okay, I have got knowledge and all. And I will, practice Hatha Yoga and then Ashtanga Yoga. Now, this Ashtanga Yogi, when he is meditating, either he is meditating on, this Brahman realization, the Brahma Jyoti, or he is meditating on the Paramatma form of the Lord. Because if you see in Ashtanga Yoga, you have Yam, Niyam, Asana and all. And then when you have Dhyana. So when you are doing Dhyan, then actually you are meditating on the Paramatma. You are meditating on the four-handed form of the Paramatma, the super soul within your heart. Now, when this particular Paramatma, meditator, he is perfecting his, meditation. And he realizes that, it's like a, you can say that this Paramatma realization person who has got sufficient realization, and if he thinks that, yes, I want to actually worship the Supreme Lord, then he gradually, rises up to this Bhakti Yoga platform. And once he rises to this, then he can have Bhagwan realization. So, from this Paramatma realization, he can go to the Bhagwan realization also. But there is a twist in this. And what is that twist? I'll tell you all. That the Srila Prabhupada has given us an express elevator from this Karma Kanda life to straight to Bhagwan realization. So anybody who is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, anybody is offering Bhoga to the Lord, anybody who is worshipping the Supreme Lord, either in Radhu Gopal or, Gaur Nitai or Radha Krishna or Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, straight from the Karma Kanda life, if you, even if you're a Karma Kandi and you start practicing, you straight do not have to bypass to all these. You straight go to this Bhagwan realization platform. When you are perfecting, when you perfect that thing that way. So then we have got an express elevator given by Srila Prabhupada over here, by our acharyas over here, that from the Karma Kanda section, you don't need to go through all these things, especially the Ashtanga Yoga, the Gyanis, they are meditating on the Brahman realization, and they are meditating on something really void, which really nobody knows what they are meditating on, and the mind can be reeling to so many other, thoughts while meditating. So that's why this particular path is not very much, appreciated, or, you can say it is not very much recommended also uh, by the Shastras or by Srila Prabhupada. He says that if you are practicing Bhakti Yoga, which means you are practicing all the other yogas by default. So that's how this particular yoga ladder that is there, it is slowly taking us from an animal life to becoming a karma yogi. Or when a particular person, for example, a particular person was living an animal life. slowly, slowly, he gets into the association of pure devotees and he starts surrendering, following sadhana bhakti to bhava bhakti to prema bhakti. So he slowly, slowly advances also, because in animal life there is unrestricted sense gratification. Then when he comes to the karma kanda section, there is sense gratification, but that sense gratification is a regulated sense gratification. So in animal life, a particular person is completely in the mode of ignorance. And slowly, 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 when he's doing regulated sense gratification, then he rises himself to Sakama Karma Yogi, where he has some material desires and he is practicing, but he has some material desires. So it is a little still on the selfish, side he is on. And then when this Sakama Karma Yogi, when he is practicing sadhana bhakti, or when he starts practicing sadhana bhakti, that's the time when he starts practicing karma yoga. And when he starts practicing karma yoga, slowly, slowly, he comes to this platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, Nishkam Karma Yogis are those devotees with no desire for personal interest. They are selfless. They want to do everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So now, from this Nishkam Karma Yogi, he is elevating himself to the platform of goodness. Now, since he has reached on this platform of goodness, then he will be able to elevate himself more to, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti and all like. So, if you see Karma Kanda section, is more like where people of very small knowledge, they're attached to, flowery words of the Vedas and some fruitive activities that they will go, okay, you do this, you will go to some heavenly planets, you will get some good birth, you will be born in a very good family and all. And these are all desires for sense gratification and living a very opulent life and nothing more than this. But when he slowly, slowly, gradually elevates himself, you know, uh, to this uh, from the Karma Kanda section to the Karma Yoga section, where the best policies for doing work is to perform, your prescribed duties for the satisfaction of Vishnu and the absolute truth. So all his actions will produce some reactions, but that will cause some bondage also. But if work is done for, Vishnu, or if you're offering anything to Vishnu, then you will be free from all the bondages. That we'll see more ahead. So, what is the difference between karma and karma yoga, jnana and jnana yoga? So, Krishna in the 6th chapter, he is saying that, see, a yogi is greater than an ascetic, and greater than an empirist is and the greater than the fruitive worker. So that is why Krishna is telling in all cases, Arjuna, you please become a yogi. So, and the difference between Sakam devotees and Nishkam devotees. So, demigods are called Sakam devotees, or devotees with some material desire in mind, while the pure devotees are called Nishkam devotees, because they have no desires for any personal interest. So, Sakam devotees are self-interested because they do not think of others, and therefore they are only able to satisfy the Lord perfectly, whereas the pure devotees take missionary responsibilities of turning non-devotees into devotees, and they therefore are able to satisfy the Lord more than even the demigods. So the Lord is actually unmindful to the non-devotees, although he's sitting in everyone's heart as a well-wisher, as a pure soul, but he gives them some chance also to receive his mercy through his pure devotees. So uh, the pure devotees are engaged in missionary activities, and that's why sometimes the Lord also descends for missionary activities. And like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has, descended, and he's sending his bona fide representatives also, and he's showing his causeless mercy towards the non-devotees. So the Lord is satisfied only with pure devotees, that he wants to give them the whole credit for his missionary success. Although he could do the work personally, but this is the sign of the Lord's satisfaction with his pure devotees, and these pure devotees are Nishkam devotees. They are as compared to the Sakam devotees, you can say. So that is why you see this yoga ladder, that slowly from karma kanda section, or you can say animal life, that is unrestricted sense gratification. Then you come to a regulated sense gratification, which is karma kanda. Then you come to a platform of attached to the fruits of work and the work itself, that is sakam yoga you come to. Then from there, slowly, when you are sufficiently frustrated with the fruits of that particular work, then you actually come to the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga, where you are completely detached from the fruits of work, and but still you are attached to the work. And then when you elevate yourself more, then you get sufficient knowledge. When you acquire knowledge, and when you know, okay, because since you've not seen the Lord, and you are meditating on some glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, of the Lord, that is called Brahman realization. You call the Brahmavadi then. And anybody who is meditating on the four-handed form of the Lord, or the super soul, then he is called a Paramatmavadi. Paramatmavadi is like that. He has he has knowledge of the eternal, and he knows that the Lord is eternal. So the Paramatma has two features. One is Sat and one is Chit. And if you come to the highest level, that is the Bhagwan level, so we know that the Lord has, transcendental features, and his form is completely Sat, Chit and Ananda, full of eternity, knowledge and bliss. So this is a little I wanted to explain about the yoga ladder, so that we know that on what level do I need to reach. Do I want to become a Nishkam Karma Yogi? Do I want to become an Ashtang Yogi? Do I want to become a Paramatma Vadi? Or do I want to become a Bhakti Yogi? Or do I want to become a devotee? So I rest my speech over here. And if anybody has any questions, queries, doubts, you are free to ask. Nobody has any questions? Hare Krishna. Okay, so if nobody has any questions, we'll end the session. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.